Is Alex Pereira taking this fight seriously? If you've been paying any attention to Pereira's social media over the past few months, you might think that training isn't quite at the top of his priority list. At the same time, Magomed Ankalaev doesn't seem to have left the gym. So understandably, fans of Pereira are concerned that maybe he's not taking Ankalaev seriously, or he's just taking his eye off the ball. In today's video, we're going to take a look at these claims. Pereira's given a few interviews, see how deeply we can read into the tweets of where Pereira's mindset is heading into this fight. We're also going to take a look at Magomed Ankalaev. He's not given too much media, but he has tweeted Pereira a few times. Hello guys and welcome back to Fight Energy. I will be recording the fight breakdown of this UFC 313 main event next week, but I just think that mindset is such a fascinating area of the game to look at. And when you look at storylines and narratives heading into a fight, this is a really big one for this main event. It's Alex Pereira's celebrity status, his star power. Is it all going to his head? Has he taken his eye off the ball? And Magomed Ankalaev, he just seems to be that stoic guy, hasn't left the gym. He's roped in some pretty interesting training partners and we'll be getting into all of that. But how true is this? A lot of the time with media stories, things as we know are exaggerated, but there can be an essence of truth. There's a picture that I want to bring up on the screen now. That's a screenshot from the video where Alex Pereira was spotted at a Drake concert, which I think is a great metaphor for where Alex Pereira is in his career right now. I don't think there's anything wrong with him enjoying the fruits of his labour, getting the selfies with fans, enjoying the star power that he has. MMA is a tough way to make a living. And for Pereira to have become such a star in such a short space of time, of course he's going to enjoy it. But could this be to the detriment of the fight next week? And just before we take a look at the first video, which is Daniel Cormier voicing his concerns about Alex Pereira, I am going to ask that you subscribe to the channel, like this video. We've got loads of content coming up for this UFC 313 main event. I'll be covering all the interviews these guys give, the press conference, doing a technical breakdown of the fight. If you haven't seen my Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker technical breakdown yet, please do watch that. I think I released it a little bit early, but watch it, enjoy it, let me know what you think. Anyway, let's get into the first clip, which is Daniel Cormier talking about Alex Pereira staying behind in Australia.
We spoke about this 2 weeks ago, and now my concern level is even higher. This dude was seen in Australia last week still, and he was shaking the hand of Drake as Drake went on stage for his concert. One, Drake constantly loses millions of dollars betting on people, so you kind of don't want Drake to bet on you because he doesn't have the greatest track record for winning. But what is Pereira still doing in Australia, Chael? He fights in 2 weeks.
It's concerning to me. I mean, the whole thing is very...
Okay, so we will pick that video back up where Chael does respond, but let's first break down what DC has to say about Alex Pereira. Now, his concern is twofold. Firstly, it's about the Drake concert and the curse of Drake and everything like that. Typically, if Drake backs you to win, bet the other way. But in this case, DC's concern is that Pereira was spotted at a Drake concert. The other concern is that he's still in Australia 2 weeks out from fighting. Now, I get it that optically and for the fans, this might not look ideal. A Drake concert, any kind of social event that a fighter goes to 2 weeks out from a fight, gives the impression that he's not locked in. He should just be in the trenches, training all day, every day. But this just isn't reality. I think the fact that he was just spotted at a Drake concert, shaking his hand, I don't see anything wrong with that. Look, if he was pictured partying, drinking, this and that, that's completely different. But the guy is allowed to do other things other than train in the build-up to a fight. It might actually be beneficial for his own mindset to have a bit of free time enjoying himself. The other concern raised by DC was about Pereira still being in Australia 2 weeks out from a fight. And now in terms of the jet lag, I completely understand where DC is coming from. However, it does seem as though DC is inferring that Pereira isn't training in Australia, he's just chilling out, enjoying himself. But as you can see from Pereira's response, which I'll bring up on the screen now, this is far from the truth. Pereira is still getting the work in, but I do think there is quite a lot of smoke and mirrors going on here. Yes, I do believe that Pereira is enjoying the fame, his newfound popularity, getting asked on stage by Drake. These must all be cool experiences. But like everyone, he just posts the highlights on social media. He's not going to post the daily grind, getting up early to get these training sessions in before his either media obligations or social activities that he has to do that day. He's just posting the cool experiences that fans want to see. And look, if this gives the impression to people that he isn't training, this only benefits Pereira even more. Firstly, it takes more pressure off him, because if he does lose or if he puts in a lackluster performance, people can just refer to the last 3 months on social media and say, look, the guy wasn't taking it serious. At the same time, if he puts together a career best performance, people are just going to be thinking, wow, this guy can do all these things, have an amazing social life, and then when it's time to perform under the bright lights, he can do it all. Okay, before we move on, let's take a look at what Chael had to say.
Very concerning. One of the reasons I love Stipe as a fireman is Stipe was able to lock down. The UFC and everybody else respected that schedule so much that he slept in the same bed most nights. He was eating the same food, training with the same people, having the same coaches. It's tough on the road. You can get that training session in, but it usually involves a treadmill at the hotel lobby. Maybe you and your coach clear a little bit of space, even in your room, you do a mitt workout. It's not the same. That training is not the same. Meanwhile, you got Ankalaev is doing no media, no tours, and he's locked down in the Caucasus regions in the mountains. I think that it's relevant.
I do actually agree with Chael to an extent then. It is relevant having a routine, doing the same things day in, day out, really locking yourself down and focusing. That works for me. That might work for Chael, might work for DC. But we can't say what works best, what's optimal for Alex Pereira. Yes, for most people out there is some kind of routine. Ultimately, the result of the fight will tell us the answer. But for Chael to project his own methods for best training onto Pereira isn't necessarily fair. But like I said, I do agree technically with what he's saying. A treadmill in a hotel isn't as good as a UFC training facility or, you know, your standard mixed martial arts gym with all the equipment there. But again, Chael doesn't know the specifics of Pereira's training routine. If he's there with his team, with sparring partners, he doesn't know the details of this. So yes, whilst I do agree, I think Chael makes a good point. Routine for most fighters is key. He can't project his own feelings on this towards Pereira. And talking about clever marketing, Alex Pereira posted this video on Instagram. It's him and Glover Teixeira training in the snow ahead of the Magomed Ankalaev fight. And you'll notice that they are grappling, Greco-Roman style wrestling here. And Magomed Ankalaev was very quick to respond. I'll just scroll up here. He said, I hope you're ready to do this for 25 minutes. Now, I love it at this stage of the fight camp, of the build-up. We're about 2 weeks out, so the mind games are really in full flow. Firstly, Alex Pereira posting this, showing that he's prepared to go to the ground to grapple with Ankalaev. And Ankalaev's response, be prepared to do that for 25 minutes. Now, if you do remember, Ankalaev did say a while ago that he had no intention of grappling with Pereira. He wanted to stand and trade with him, show him that he was the better striker. But now with less than 2 weeks to go, he's threatening the wrestling. There's a couple of ways you can look into this. Either he's decided that probably the better plan would be to make an easier night for himself and grapple with this, let's face it, novice grappler in Alex Pereira. Or is he just trying to play the mind games with Pereira, make him think that he'll be going for grappling exchanges and then coming over the top with nice strikes? Look, we're going to find out soon, less than 2 weeks to go. I'm really excited for this fight. I genuinely don't know what it's going to look like. That's why the technical breakdown I'll be doing will be so interesting, because there's so many different looks and so many different options from Ankalaev's perspective that he can give us heading into this fight. I think we know what we're going to get with Pereira, power that carries through to the latter rounds. But Ankalaev, who knows what we're going to get. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, the narrative heading into this fight for Ankalaev is that he is tucked away in the mountains, in the Caucasus, training all day, all night, no distractions. Basically the polar opposite of what is going on with Pereira. And as you can see from this tweet here, Alexander Volkov is helping Magomed Ankalaev train for his upcoming fight with Alex Pereira. This is a really interesting look. Volkov, I always feel like he's one of those underrated heavyweights. When he puts it all together, he is almost as good as they come. How good a training partner is he to replicate what Alex Pereira does? I think he's pretty good. He's tall, he's rangy, he's got a really nice jab. So as far as sparring partners go, I think the weight will also make a big difference here in terms of how hard he punches. I think this is a pretty good look for Ankalaev. And if he's getting a lot of work in with Alexander Volkov, if he's conditioning his body and his chin to take punches off a heavyweight. That can only be a good thing for this fight. But really, in terms of where Magomed Ankalaev is in his training camp, this is pretty much all we have to go off. I think he has released a training clip, a little highlight video before, but really his camp seems closed, quiet, small. As Chael mentioned before, he's not really done any media. I'm expecting that to change in the next 10 days or so. I'm hoping that he gives me a nice interview, maybe on Ariel Helwani to react to. But the preparation and the mental side of things where Ankalaev and Pereira are currently couldn't be more different. Pereira has really put himself more into the limelight, going for these public appearances, posting more training stuff online, almost a fearless approach. Whereas Ankalaev, maybe it comes down to his lack of ego or perceived lack of ego, but he's really got himself away from social media. Apart from the odd tweet and jab to Pereira, he's kept things really quiet. Whose approach will win, we will find out in just over a week's time, but I cannot wait for this one. And so whether you prefer Alex Pereira's public approach to training camp or Ankalaev's quiet and hidden approach, I think it's important before I end this video to point out that neither approach is technically correct or incorrect. It all comes down to what works for the fighter. Now, we might find out in 2 weeks' time that Pereira might have benefited from a quieter camp, or Ankalaev might not be prepared for the biggest stage of his life because he has been tucked away for so long. Anything's possible in this game. That's what makes it so exciting. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Pereira isn't taking this fight seriously? Do you think he's distracted? Do you think Ankalaev has the fight IQ to put it all together on the night? Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later.